All right, this is Jeff at the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a webinar on version 9 physical inventory, right? I see that we have 3 people currently signed in. I'm not sure how many I'm expecting. Looks like 7 people are registered, but it is 2 minutes past the hour, and I'm sure you guys have things to do and places to go and people to see, so I think we'll dive right in and get going, right? Okay, so I put a handout. I think I put a handout in there. I guess I did not put a handout in there. All right, so let's see. Let's try this again. I'm trying to put a handout in there. Apparently, it won't take a text file. It's only taking a JPEG, so um, it is giving me some challenges on that, right? Well, let's just take a look at it, right? So you guys have a panel on your right-hand side. If you have any questions, please ask them. There's a chat, and I guess I cannot seem to get that to upload. So I guess we'll play with that in a minute. I do appreciate when people ask questions, though, and we have a few more people joined. Good, excellent. If you want, I can unmute your mic too. So just let me know. Just raise your hand, or I'll keep an eye on the little notes area there. And all right, physical inventory version 9. We're not going to go over it, but I'm going to point out that you need to be prepped, cleaned, tagged, all your zones created. You need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's a waste of money and time to do a physical inventory. So you got to be ready. You got to be fully 100% ready. You got to know how you're going to count, and the zones need to be roughly 30 minutes worth of scanning. You guys can all hear me, right? I'm still hoping you can hear me. My microphone shows volume, but don't see anybody yet. So, all right. All right, there's 4 steps to physical inventory. So before we even go in and look at like the physical inventory process, right? I'm just going to point out that there are 4 things that happen. You start the inventory, you count the stuff, you look at the difference between the two, and you accept the numbers, right? That's it. That's the process. And the goal is that you're prepped well enough that this counting piece, this collecting of data piece, goes quickly and smoothly. So if you're 100% tagged, and if the night before you turn some items around so the tags are showing, you prepped the field and you know where each zone starts and stops, and you can go out and collect that data and get it back there as quickly as possible, then you can get on to steps 3 and 4, right? So let's go take a physical, right? All right, so inventory, and anybody can see the screen, I'm guessing. It's shared out, so all right, so sidebar menu, we have inventory, physical inventory over here. I don't have much in this inventory, apparently. So physical inventory stores, and check off the store you want to start. Give the physical a name. So, you know, PI 2021, whatever you want to call it, right? And then create the physical. This is a filter. This can be turned on and off in preferences. We can look at the preferences too. If you have a filter, and I had a tech call on this earlier today, in fact, where somebody had an old filter in there that had basically had some item numbers in there, you know what I mean, like this kind of. So somebody must have been doing a physical on like 3 items, you know what I mean? And they had it sitting in there like that. Of course, it doesn't show like that. It just shows selection. If you have anything in the filter and you're doing a full physical, make sure your clear all button is gray, right? If the clear all button is gray, you're good. So anyway, click OK. It goes and builds a physical for you. If you want to be sure that you're good, step one's done, by the way. We started the physical. If you want to be sure you're good, though, click into the PI inventory and see what loaded. Now, certainly we got our start quantity, our scan quantity, our discrepancy, right? I like to add the inventory on hand, not required by any means, but it's nice to see the on-hand quantity too. It's your choice right on that one. But that's the 4 columns really. So this here is copied over to here, right? And then since we haven't counted anything, you have a discrepancy. And what we probably should do is I'm gonna just gonna bump up and inactivate this one. I'm gonna go fake some quantities and do that again real quick so that we're all on the same page, right? So on hand. Now, normally you would never do this in real life, but hey, you know what? This is just a virtual machine and we don't care, right? That's the beauty of being a tech, right? All right, so we have some items that have some quantities. So let's go start a physical. Physical inventory, stores, and pick our name. Should be in the menu already. Create, okay. And now let's go look at our physical. And that's exactly it, right? So the 5 here is copied over to here. We have not counted anything yet. Therefore, we are short everything. That is a good, clean, healthy start. That is exactly how a start should be. And it should have, like in this section here, this should be everything that's going to be counted. Meaning that we could have filtered this to a department, right? That would be a smaller version of the physical, right? But in this case here, we're talking about the whole store, so no filtering, wide open. If you counted it, it gets updated. If you don't count it, it goes to 0, right? That's the deal. So step 1, boom, step 1 done. So step 1, we go in there and we start it. We click OK. We get the physical. So backing up here to the main menu, let's see what's going on here. Physical inventory, and we don't have our zones button, so I am going to hop out and go into system preferences. Go to time as any, right? So in system preferences, there are 3 main nodes. It always starts by opening the global node. We don't need global. We need local, merchandise, PI tool, general, right? So local, merchandise, PI options. I would always want to be in zone mode. I was going to go over this later, but since I'm not set to zone mode, this is a clean virtual machine that I just set up and never got a chance to play with. So clearly my preferences aren't set, and that's actually a good thing for us. So I would want to be in a zone mode. I would want to be using my item number. I mean, unless you're a 100% UPC, if you initialize a scanner, you're going to want it to be your number. You need a number for everything, right? Everything has to have a number, top to bottom. All right, so says use a filter for start. That's fine, good. Strip leading zeros, very bad move, by the way. Don't strip leading zeros in an ALU or you won't find a match. Trim leading spaces, yeah, great all day long, fine. And the rest of these really don't matter a great deal, except this one here. This one has to do with remote stores, and we'll probably circle back around on this concept at the end. It has to do with whether or not the remote store has the ability to update the inventory itself. If it does not have it, then we check this, and the remote has to give you the count at the main. If they do have the ability, we uncheck this at the remote. At the main, this never gets checked. So if you're a multi-store operation at the main office, this never gets checked. Anyway, we'll circle back and talk about that at the end there probably. Okay, while we're here, right below it is a thing called an import map. This is used primarily for importing counts from like a inventory service. We're going to use it today to mimic what a scanner will do. So I'm going to call mine ALU 6. And so I'm going to say that our SKU The ALU begins on character 1, ends on character 6 for a length of 6. Our count starts on character 8. I'm going to create a CSV file. There's going to be a comma in character 7. So starting on 8, going to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So for a length of 5, I'm going to have a count. I don't care about the zone names. We could put those in, by the way, or sublocations or serial numbers. Right at the moment, we are uploading ALUs. We are not uploading UPCs. I'm going to click save so we have our little map built so we can go mimic what a scan might be, right? And before we go in and make a scan, let's just grab some ALUs, right, and export these out to Notepad and create an import file. So there's my ALUs that I'll be importing. And you could do this, by the way. You could export some data out to an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, and you could easily have somebody count something in an Excel spreadsheet, and then you could upload it just like I'm uploading it. Just got to save it as a CSV, right? All right, so we got counts on everything, right? Now, I'm going to throw a red herring here in the middle. Right, so I'm going to throw a number in that does not exist, right? Because the fact is that it's very possible that while scanning items, we could scan a manufacturer barcode that's not in our database, right? So that's going to be an upload error. That's what that's going to be. So let's go File, Save As, and let's just put these on the desktop, and we'll call this Scan 1. And we'll do another Save As. And I'll call this one Scan 2. That way we got a little bit of ammunition here to play with as we go and make zones, right? Save As, Scan 3. All right, so we got some scans to play with. So we go back to physical inventory. And just to be sure here, I'm going to go back to stores. I'm going to inactivate this one more time because I started it in simple mode. It's probably wiser if I started in zone mode. And I'm not sure it actually makes a difference, but I'm not going to roll the dice in a training session. That just seems unwise, right? So I'm going to go in here where clear all is good, click OK. And we have our start done. We back out of here. We go to physical inventory. We go to zones, click new, say what store we're going to be doing this on. So you could run more than one store at a time. Be careful with that. You know, the issue there isn't the software, it's us human beings, right? So, give this a name. Now the names of the zones should be intelligent. If you guys have more than one store, please, if you have more than one store and you're going to be sending the data to the main, be nice to yourself. Put the store designation in the beginning of the zone, right? So I could say like O1, store 1, men's, section 35, whatever, right? Now you get, in V9, you get a lot of space here. You got like 20 characters to play with, I think. So you got plenty of room here, right? So I could say men's tops, you know, dash 035 or whatever I want to call this one, right? But just have a decent naming convention, right? That makes sense to you so that if you see that zone, you roughly know where it is. You could walk over in that and probably find it, maybe not. Maybe you have to look at the map. I don't know, right? So I'm going to click create. Okay, so there's our zone. Now I could go on and create other zones, right? I could go ahead and keep going and create additional zones. So O1, men's, shorts, dash 048, I don't know, right? So there's a couple zones. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could create the zone, and immediately upon creating the zone, I could go to scanned and I could add counts, right? So what we probably have, most likely we should have anyway, is a scanner, right? And a scanner is going to be out there in the field. Now there are different kinds of scanners. There's the current model, which uses Foundry Logic, which is the TC20 from Zebra. There's the Janims, there's the PTs, there's the Dolphin scanner. We can talk about those more. Some of the scanners, like the old PTs and the Janims, have to be cleared between scans. Other ones, like the Dolphins and the new Zebras, don't have to be cleared between scans. So I'd highly recommend whatever scanner you're using. If you're not familiar with it 100%, or if you rented it from us, you need to have a little training class right before you do it, right? And it needs to include the scanner, testing the scanner to make sure it works, and that you're comfortable with all the commands and how it works, right? Normally we would click portable device and it would say upload. I'm going to skip and go over to import. And we have our map right here. Hopefully I lined it up correctly. I'm going to open up one of those files on the desktop. And right now it's looking for data files, so I'm going to flip it to look for text files. And there's scan1.txt. I'm going to click open and import and see what happens. Okay, there was a total of one item that could not be found. Yeah, I laid it in there, right? I put that in there on purpose, a little landmine waiting to go off, right? So we're going to close that. And now we can see that the scan counts that I counted here came in, right? Now, if we back up one level, what we see is we have 21 pieces. 3 pieces were counted that are bad, I guess. Not really, 3 SKUs. What's going on there? Let's go into the errors. So errors on the sidebar menu here takes you into, you can see the errors. It's not really 3 that are bad, right? It's the bracketing items around the bad item. Now, again, this installation is just way too fresh and it has no modifications. So I would want my ALU to be in here. I might want to keep the UPC, but probably on the end. So I need to know what this item is, and what we really need is this here, the import ID. So the import ID is what was scanned, right? So at the end of the day, this would be like a UPC code from a manufacturer, right? That's what this would be. So what this does for you right here is it tells you that right before and right after this item right here was these items, right? This item right here and this item right here are bracketing that item. Does that make sense to everybody? So now, it would be beautiful if that was actually the case, if that was just like the trail of breadcrumbs right to our scanned item, right? But let's talk about that for a second. So here's my little notepad that I was trying to upload, and we'll see if we can get it uploaded here, and maybe I'll put it in Word. So let's say I'm scanning beep, and I'm scanning beep, beep. I scan a bad item. I don't know it's a bad item at the time because I'm using a dumb scanner. We'll talk about that too. I keep scanning, right? Beep, 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 beep. Now, when this thing pops up, here's my bad scan. It's going to show the bracketing scans, right? So the scan before it would be 789, and the scan after would be 1, 2, 3, except it would show 789 and 741. Why would it not show the scan that actually happened right after it? Well, because the job of a scanner is to count, right? And that record already exists in the list. So that record would be incremented to a quantity of 2, right? So we'd have a little count there going on. And this record here in the scanner wouldn't actually exist. Does that make sense to everybody? So what I'm saying, when you see these bracketing scans back here, the bad item is between them. Absolutely. But there could be 10 other items in there too, right? It's not quite cut and dry, if you see where I'm going. So anyway, you want to get this out. You can get this out by clicking print and having like one of our designs. This design here has both. We can split it up if you want, but it's not a bad design as it is. And the top here, it's got the bad scans bracketed and then the good scans beneath it. So you can see the order of scanning down here. You can see how you went, and you can see where those bad ones are. I don't mind that. So another customer pointed out to me though that you could just as easily right click this, say select all, right click again, export this to Notepad, and boom, you have it out in Notepad. You could just drop that to a printer and go back and have it just that fast. So yeah, they don't quite line up. The tabs are a little bit off, but who cares? That's just going to be a barcode and a count, right? That's all it's going to be on that line. It couldn't be matched to a description, so that's all you got, a barcode and a count, right? So so no questions so far. I see that nobody's raised their hand, nobody's got a question, nobody's got anything going on. Feel free to jump in, chime in. I'm trying to keep an eye on that. If anything I say does not make sense, you need to say something, because it's our job to communicate, right? To be 100% on track as far as being understood. And if you don't understand something, somebody else probably doesn't understand it either, right? So with this, we would take this out to the field. We would find said item, right? Now, when we find it, one of two things is going to happen. It's going to have a tag or it's not, right? We're going to know the answer or we're not going to know the answer, right? So in either case, we come back and we have to clear the bad scan. So this thing here has to get resolved. You have to resolve this. So we click resolve. You're about to remove the 2 scans. There's no counts on them, but yeah, you're going to move the other 2 back to the regular list. And then if you have the correcting item, right, then we would go back to scans and we would say, oh, there was actually one more of these right there that we scanned the wrong barcode on, so we actually should have counted 6. Okay, well then make that a 6. Or you could say, save, add counts, right? And you could key in the item that you want to key in there. So I'm just going to key in, I think all the items I have are already keyed in, but I'll just key that in and press enter. It shows that we added 1 with a scan quantity again of well, it's showing 7 now because I had 6 and I'm adding 1, right? So it's now showing 7. And again, you know, the screen design is brand spanking new, and I've never played with it here at all in the PI area. So my ALU field's not there. So I usually would like to have my ALU field probably first, so I can see that apples to apples. I scanned that number, it came up. There's the quantity I scanned. There's the total count now that it's incrementing to. Click close, right? So if we have the right answer, if we know what the item is, we're going to add it back to the count manually, right? If we don't know what the item is, we are going to physically remove the item to the trouble area, where someone else will retag trouble area items and we will scan them last, right? We're not going to hold the whole physical up for one bad item. It either gets recounted manually or it goes to the trouble area and we push on, right? So this area then would then get printed out. So I would then back out to the main menu and print this out using like our BHD version 9 zone report and preview that. And it would show all the items that we have there at their various counts, and a little place for initials at the top that says verified by. So I would print this out and have somebody go eyeball some of these. I don't know. You could highlight the ones you feel like should be touched on. You know, use good common sense here. If you've got a rounder of leather jackets, we're probably going to do 100% double check. If we've got a tub at point of sale full of chapstick, we're probably not going to double check that at all, right? I mean, double check to the degree that you feels appropriate for the merchandise you're checking. Now, you got to know we're making mistakes, right? The question is not, are we making mistakes? The question is, are we catching our mistakes? So we are making mistakes. And if you don't double check your zones to some degree, you will not find any mistakes, I guarantee you. So just be aware that you need to be checking for errors as you go. There are 2 places to do that. One is when you make the zone, you could then print it out and have somebody sample 4 items. I don't care, right? Just take a look at it. But you can't, if you scanned it, you can't double check it. I mean, you can't proofread your own stuff, right? So if they come back and they say something's wrong with it, then obviously we could just go right back into our scans here and we could fix it. Okay, yeah, we found that there was only 5 of those that was screwed up, and the other 3 was 3 of these, so I'm going to change that to 6. Okay, we think we're good now, right? We could also go back and add counts. We could also zero things out. So we got lots of options there, right? Once we feel like it is 100% dialed in, perfect, right? Then we would merge that zone. So here's a button over here to merge the zone. Some people like to mark the zone and then merge marked. I like to merge them as I go. For me, see, when I click merge zone and I say yes, it checks it off. I know that one has now been uploaded and it's been double checked, right? That's just the way I like to do it. Because you're going to have, I got 2 zones in here. You're going to have more than 2 zones, right? You're going to have a bunch of zones in there, right? So, you know, O1, women's, tops, whatever, 001, right? So when you have a lot of zones in this list, it's nice to see which ones are done. Okay, so let's just walk through. Let's just walk through this real quick. So we have to build a new zone, right? We have to go to new and zones, and usually I like to say who's counting it in the zone. We have to add the counts, right? Portable starter, click start. We'll talk about a manual thing here in a second. If there are errors, you have to go and resolve them, right? You have to clear the scanner if it's a scanner that needs to be cleared. If you don't clear the scanner, what's going to happen? So if you upload this first zone, right, then you send it back out and you don't clear it, and then you upload the second zone, you just uploaded the first zone twice, right? That's what happened. Now the easy fix is just to delete the first zone, but if you have modifications in there, that starts to get a little tricky, right? So if you have a scanner like the PT or the Janum that has to be cleared, you have to clear them. And so the best way to handle that is to have one person running the physical, one person doing the uploads, one person with the master list of what's been scanned and what has not been scanned. And the scanners come up and they hand their scanner to that person, they upload them. And at no point do you have 2 scanners on the desk, right? If you're waiting in line to get uploaded, you hold your scanner. Otherwise you get confused about which one you uploaded. It's a mess, right? So we created a zone. We go into the scanned section, add counts. We click portable terminal, click send, or in our case, click import file and change to one of our other files here and say import. And if we get errors, we click OK and close. We then back out and go to errors. We then probably select all and export that out to Notepad, send the scanner back out to find that item. When they come back with the item or the correction, we make the correction or we put the item in the bad scan area, right? Either way, right here in the error section, we're going to click resolve and we're going to remove that bad scan or we can't merge it. So then if we made corrections, great, we're good. Then we go ahead and print this out, send somebody out to take a look, check some stuff. If they find errors, great. If they don't find errors, great. Then at that point we would want to merge that zone as well. And that just repeats over and over, right? Everybody got that? Should I do one more here? So I click new, I give it a name, right? Actually, let's click new. So right here, store, right? Name, whatever. Oh, I forgot the store. And you can do whatever you want in this naming convention. Just make it a good one, right? And then down here, like if Jeff was scanning this, I would just put his name and maybe say, you know, what it is, but we already got shorts at the top, so I think that's probably good, right? So then we create that, we highlight it, go over here to scanned, say I want to add counts to this, click portable terminal. It then prompts you and you hit send on the scanner, or in our case, pop in here to our little pre-built upload documents and import them. We get our error. Hopefully you don't get errors, actually. So nice when you don't get errors, but every now and then they hit one bad one. We then highlight all this, select all, and export to Notepad. Boom, print that out, have them go find it. And then here we just click resolve. There's no fixing it in this version. You just resolve, and if you have to make corrections, then you go back to scanned, and you make your corrections either by adding a count or by editing a count, right? And once we are good then and have all that, we merge our zones, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and merge this zone here. Boom, merge. And I didn't put anything in this. You could, I guess I should. Let's go to scanned, right? And add counts and leave it on manual here. So I could easily, if I wanted to key in items, I could do this, right? So in this mode, in the next item mode, if you're keying stuff in, it's assuming quantity 1. So if I put in 100018 and just press enter now, it just posts at a quantity 1, right? Now, if you're a Windows person, and that's like a 10 key mode, right? But if you're more of a Windows person, then you want to probably click on that, right? Actually, it's the other way around, excuse me. This is the Windows version, that's the 10 key version. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to the 10 key version. The quantity for current item is like a 10 key. So I go in here and I say 20 enter, 5 enter. You know what I mean? If you're used to pounding that enter key, 100011 enter, 1 enter, right? 5 enter, right? So that's like 10 key, boom, boom, boom. This first one, if you want to do quantity, you have to use the tab key. Now in Windows, we like the tab key a lot. So if I hit the tab key right now, it drops me down here and I could say, I want to do 5, right? And then press enter. So if you like tabbing around, right, then stay on the top one. If you just want to press enter, like key in a number, so 100002, enter, quantity 12, enter, boom, right? That's very fast. If you do 10 key, and I used to do 10 key when I was a operations manager in retail, and my cash office person would call in sick, and I'd be stuck in the office for quite a bit longer than it took her. So we can go in and add our own counts if we need to, and we will at some point use this method here to make corrections. In fact. So I key my stuff in, maybe I print it out, maybe I double check it, good idea. If there are exceptions or corrections, you probably don't need to so much. We're gonna merge that zone. So at some point though, we get all of our zones merged. So we have a map, we know how many zones we're expecting, we get them all counted, we get them all double checked, we get them all merged. Step 2 done, right? That's what that means, right? So once we have our step 2 done, we can move on to step 3, right? Once we've merged all of our zones. So this line here in the process is here for a reason. We must be closed to get an accurate count. It's very hard to get a count if you're not closed. So we do not have to be closed to handle our discrepancies. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. When we update, let's talk about what happens. Okay, when we update, basically right down here, this is what happens. The new quantity is going to equal the current quantity on hand plus the difference. So when we start and we have 10, okay, and we didn't count anything, we just started, so we're short all 10. So we go out and count 8, that creates a discrepancy or a difference of 2, right? Okay, so at that moment in time, our on hand is 10, and if we add 10 to negative 2, we get 8. That works. That's sweet. Nothing wrong with that, right? So what if we take a day to evaluate our discrepancies, and in that time we sell 5? Does it still work here? Yes, it does, right? If I take a 5 and I apply a negative 2, I get 3. And if I had 8 and sold 5, I would have 3, right? So it completely works, right? So the trick is if it's in the store, you have to count it before you sell anything, right? So if you sell one first, if you're open while you're counting, that's what this is down here. So we start the process up here, right? This is our start, but we sell one, boom. Then we go count what's there. Now we can only count 7 because in our scenario there's 8. We are short, but we're not short 3, but it thinks we're short 3. But the on hand is already migrated because we sold one to 9. When we add 9 and -3, we don't get 7. At least I don't get 7. So what's happening there is the receipt takes it out and the physical inventory also takes it out. So for us to not take it out in physical, we have to count everything that's there, right? That's the tricky thing. And of course, that just comes into what strategy you use. You know, if you come in early in the morning and hit the floor hard, you can be mostly done with it. You can open the doors. If you're on the last aisle, you could control what gets sold from the last aisle while you're scanning it, right? Hey, sir, we're taking physical. Can I scan that before you take up the point of sale? Yeah, no problem, right? No big deal. So you could go in early, get the floor done, then you could continue taking inventory in the stockroom because nobody's shopping the stockroom, right? You're completely controlling that anyway. So, or you could go the other way. You could close early, right? And you could have the stockroom already pretty much scanned down, loaded the scanners up, kind of rolling the dice on that. I usually don't like to put too much in the scanner in case it has a problem or errors out or something. But you know, if you're going to close at 6 and nobody's in the stockroom, I'm scanning the stockroom at 5. You know what I mean? I'm loading those scanners up, and then I'm going to just upload them right at 6 when I hit the start button. So either way, though, right? Those are just different strategies we can use to try and get the thing done. So discrepancies then, right? So once we've got all of our zones in the can, then we would back out of here. So far what we found is that in the physical inventory, we went to stores for step 1, then we went to zones for step 2. Now we're going back to stores for steps 3 and 4, mostly. Anyway, we go in back into stores. We look over here where it says discrepancy. We click on discrepancy. It shows us everything that's in discrepancy. Right now, for me, that's everything because I don't have that much, and I certainly did not do accurate counts, right? So here's my starting quantity here. Like I got a 5. I counted 15. I'm over by 10, right? Everything's pretty much over, isn't it? Yep. No, I'm short here. So I started with 25. I only counted 3 there. So I'm short 22 pieces, right? So typically what I do here is print this out, and we have different ways to print this out. Like ladies' dress shops like to do it by vendor because they usually merchandise by vendor in little groups, right? Most people like departments. Some people like just a big list of all the items. Let's just try the department thing here and see how that works out for us. These are all in the same department, aren't they? That's awkward. All right. So what this does, though, you can see that a department, right, prints out in subtotals. Then it would continue on to the next department and subtotal for the next one, and eventually give you the grand total at the bottom. So this is a nice way to look at your discrepancies because you can piece this out by department and say, look, Susie, you're going to do this department, and Johnny's going to do that department, right? And then you got to decide, you know, which ones you're going to hit. Okay, here's one that's 25. We counted 3. That looks like an error. Make sure you hit that one, right? I don't think we can do a double check on every single item in the store. We're going to have to make good choices here, right? So if we go out and we mark this sheet up and we circle an item and say, okay, that counts wrong, we need to add some to that item, right? So let's say that item there, it needs to have more items, right? So number 7 needs more items. And let's say we overcounted 29 here, difference in 19. So let's say we overcounted number 10. So we're going to take some back from 10 and give some to 7, right? That's basically what you're doing when you're modifying your discrepancies. You're fixing mistakes, right? The easiest way I've found to fix mistakes is to go back into zones for a minute and just add a correcting zone. It's a lot easier. In version 8, we would have basically done a quick key to the number and modified it. The problem with that is it's a lot of searches, and when you edit the scan quantity, you leave no audit trail, and that gets a little dicey if you make a mistake, right? So I kind of like this better in the sense that it leaves a brilliant audit trail, and you can see what you did, and it doesn't require any searching at all. So if I go into zones and I say that I want to make a new zone, right, and it's going to call this corrections one. Now you can have as many of these as you want, and basically I would probably do one per person. Like if I had a list of corrections, I would say, okay, there in this correction, I've got 14 SKUs, whatever, with a total count of X that I'm going to be adding. I would then put those in and print that out and compare it to my notes and make sure everything balances, right? We could make a typo just as easy. They can make a scanning error, right? So I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to highlight our corrections. I'm going to go into scanned. I'm going to add counts, and I'm going to say that we want to add counts to 7, right? So we're going to add into 7. There wasn't 22, there was 20 more, right? But 10, we overcounted, and we found that we were wrong on that. So I am going to take back, and this is what you cannot do in version 8. You cannot take back a count. So I'm going to say I was 10 over, right? So I'm going to take back 10. I'm going to count a negative number. Can't do that in version 8. Beautiful thing that they did here. So I could just really key in the items I want to modify and how much I want to modify them for, and then click close and print this out if I need to double check it, right? And then back out and merge it. And when I merge it, it goes and makes all my corrections for me, right? So physical inventory, stores, discrepancies. So let's take a look at 7 now. Started with 25, counted 23, now we're short 2. And 10, what do we got here? We got started with 10, counted 19, now we're only 9 over. We were 19 over before, it looks like, so we were 29 count. So, you know, we made our corrections. If that's the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do, right? So again, there's different versions of this. Like this one does it by vendor. This is all one vendor. Excuse me, that's the vendor one. This is good and bad scans together. That's just a list of items. So back to our list, make sure we're not missing anything here, right? Right, so print these out, fix them as needed. That brings us down to step 4, right? Step 4 is to accept these numbers, right? Now, real quick, before we do that, because once I update this, then it goes away. It's no longer active. I want to hop into reports and see if my report's loaded, actually, because I loaded them literally minutes before our webinar. Yeah, I know I haven't built a Delta, so what? It's going to bug me again here in a second. Right, so in the BHD custom reports, okay, there's a couple things we're going to talk about in here. But right now, what we want to talk about is the PI zone report. There's a report in here that says BHD PI zone report. It has no filter criteria. Like there's nothing you'd filter by. It automatically knows to query for the active physical, right? So if we click run and OK, it just literally goes and finds every item. Now what it's doing is by item. So you see the first item here, which is basically 100001, was counted in these 3 zones, right? So it's giving us the zones by name and the counts that was counted in each of those. So if you start with 3 and you count 63 and you check the zone, it's got a count of 3. You check the physical count on the floor, it matches. You look at the discrepancy report, you got a 63. Okay, you counted 60 of these somewhere else in the store. You don't know which zone it's in, and you probably have 100 zones. So this report gives you that answer, right? So what you do is if you're looking for a particular item, you run the report, you click find, and you put your item number in, right? So 100007, find that item for me, boom, there it is. Just that fast, it whips down and shows you the item that's highlighted, right? Hopefully we all see that item that's highlighted right there. And then you can see this one was counted in 4 different places and what the count was in each. And of course, in real life, this actually happened. We counted a jacket in a jewelry counter in one of our clients. And of course, that begs the question, for 60 pieces in the jewelry counter, what was not counted, right? So obviously you can't have a jacket in a jewelry counter, but some piece of jewelry didn't get counted right because we fat fingered the number in. So this is just a handy tool to be aware of. It's the PI, it's the BHD PI zone report. It basically backwards sort of queries by item and shows you all the zones that they're in. It's really handy. All right, so let's put that reports thing on pause for a second. And back here then, if we're going to update this, right, we would then go down here to update PI. Now, this should be set correctly to all items if your preferences are defaulted to all items, which they should be all items, right? So if we don't count something, it's because we don't have it and it needs to go to 0, right? So we update all items. We don't update items that are quantities only. We don't do accounts only. We don't do any of those other weird things you can do. When we update a physical inventory, 99.9% of the time, it's for all items. If you filter it to a department, same thing. Still, if you didn't count it, it's because you don't have it. So we make sure we're on all quantity. It should default to that. We set our reason code. So in here, I need a reason code for physical inventory. I don't have one because this is almost blank. This whole install is blank. So I'm going to type in PHYS physical, right? Or whatever you want to do. Some people like to do PI and put the year in. Some people like to do physical. Some people like to use PHYS INV. There's like a ton of choices here, right? Whatever you want to do. Now, you want to pick something that's easy to go with that you can filter for, and that is critical because you're going to want to analyze these numbers, right? So I'm going to pick PI. I'm going to click all my stores. I only got one, right? So I'm going to click update. That should go and do my update for me. Now, once its update is done, then the physical inventory is, we're back reset. We can start a new one, but now I can also now go into stores, archives, physicals, right? And I could unarchive that. Now, again, if you're on a new install that doesn't have the button, you might have to add the unarchive button, right? So there's the unarchive button. I could resurrect this, bring it back from the dead. And on that same point, I think I forgot to mention, let me see if I can even show it to you here. Physical inventory, archive zones. I don't even know if the button's in archived. It is not, probably. Well, all right, so let's just go back and make a new one real fast. Yep, that works for me. So create, okay. If we hop out to the desktop for a minute, see, it renames our scans when it burns them. It renames them to BAK so that it's like a backup version. So I'm going to change that back to text so we can upload another one, which we're not going to do much with, to be honest. But all right, so physical inventory zones, new zone, pick your store, give it a name, zone 1, create, scanned, add counts, portable device, send data, right? In our case, I'm going to go back to our little map here and click import. And yes, we got an error. We're going to close that, go clean our error, resolve, and make our corrections. And at some point, we're going to merge this. And what I missed, really, and I wanted to go over, but I did not, So we're going to do it real quick right now. If we go back to physical inventory stores now, there is a merge zone list. And in the merge zone list, you can add, yes, that's right, the unmerge button. So they're locked once they're merged, but they're not merged forever. If you need to go fix it and you find a simple error and you're like, hey, I need to upload 3 more items to that zone, just unmerge it, right? Boom. It's out of the merge section now. It's back in the zone section as an unmerged regular old zone. So I just go back into zones and there it is. I could now go and scan and add counts, right? Or I could edit these quantities if I want to. All right. Okay, so now let's switch gears. I do want to talk about multi-store, and I'll do that in just a minute, but I'm going to pop back into reports because at the top of the reports here, I have all these, there's a whole bank of PI reports. So departments ranked, departments top 10 per store, top 10 by company, right? By description 1 style, by item, by vendors, and by vendors top 10 per store, right? So there's a different ways of looking at the results. Now, these reports have everything you need, except they don't have the reason code because everybody's got a different reason code out there. So when you run these, and I can do we only have one department, so it's going to be a short report, right? But if I run this, what's missing here is the reason code, right? PI in my case. Now, I edited that in on the fly, and it added it to the database, didn't it? Automatically. So this here report, and we're only going to have one piece of data, right? But what it's going to do is it's going to show you the department code, right? And then it's going to give you the cost difference, right? And the quantity difference and the rank. So this thing will show you the top 10 departments. Well, that one there would actually be alphabetical, excuse me. This one down here gives you the top 10 per store, top 10. But again, I don't have reason codes in these, so you can edit the filter permanently to have your reason code. Just be consistent, use the same reason code, right? So when I was in retail, we used to run these kinds of reports. We would look at our top 10 departments and find out what departments made the top 10. And honestly, I thought it was a joke for a long time until leaded crystal made the top 10. And there's no way people are putting punch bowls down their pants, right? So how did leaded crystal in a $3.5 million store, actually that was a $5.5 million store I was in at that time. Anyway, I was a store manager at Marshall's, right? So off-price junk shop, fair enough. But still, we got some pretty nice stuff. We'd get Mikasa and we'd get some pretty nice crystal back there, right? It's the dregs of the lines, sure, but still, they're nice, leaded crystal. I couldn't figure out how leaded crystal made the top 10. It took me 3 months. I did figure it out though. Waterford tumblers. People were taking Waterford tumblers out of a box of 6 like generic tumblers. They would take the generic ones out, put them on the shelf, put the Waterford ones inside the box, and they would just buy the box for $10. It was like $45 a pop. Very quickly, we hit the top 10 when you're giving away Waterford tumblers. So we put security tags on them. That fixed the problem, but then everybody complained that they couldn't get the security tags off this $45 tumbler. There's no winning there, but the point is the report actually worked. It identified a problem that we didn't even see. It wasn't even on our radar, right? And then we made a shrink plan and we figured it out. We won in the end. So I would strongly recommend running these reports, looking at your top 10 departments, look at them by item. Once you get down into, and a department is the culprit, right? Then you could run one of these and you could filter it by your reason code. Now you want your reason code in there because you probably have manual mark out of stocks in there too. You don't want to see those. You just want to see the ones for PI, right? And then you probably need to filter by the department code that you're getting into or the vendor code. Again, I only have 20 items. So boom, it'll show you all your items and what the difference was, right? So now you notice that the order of items in this case here, and this is true of all these reports, it ranks it with the most money lost on top. So this is mostly overage. We already knew that. So you see that the shortage is on top here, and the biggest overage is at the bottom. So it starts with the thing that lost the most money, not the most pieces, right? And then it goes to the thing that gained the most money. And then somewhere in the middle, you hit zero for a bit, right? That's the way these things work, though. So if that makes sense to everybody, and I can blow this up if it's not quite big enough and everybody can see it. You know, I'm not sure how big my screen is on your screen, but you get what's going on there with the extended cost column, right? The difference is it'll start at a -1,000, go to a -800, go down to a -500, down, 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 down to zero. Then it'll start climbing back up, and the last page will have your biggest overage. So strongly recommend analyzing the results of your physical, understand your physical. And we made lots of changes. We put the earrings up front, trying to get them to be stolen less. Didn't help, by the way. Earring spinners are just impossible to really cover. You know what I mean? People are going to steal earrings, even if you put them right by the cashier. But I think maybe we minimized it a little bit. I mean, you know, shrinkage is mostly about mistakes. And so if you can find out where you're making mistakes and fix the things you can fix, then you're probably doing the best you can do. So anyway, I guess we should talk about multi-store a little bit for those of you who have multiple stores. I still don't see any questions, nothing in the chat. Always open to that. But okay. All right, so let's draw some pictures. You know, that's what it really comes down to for me. I'm very visually oriented, and so I want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about here. So if we have a main office, right? We've got Mr. Main Office there, and we've got a remote store. Okay, options here for physical inventory, right? So they start the physical inventory count sheet here at the remote. It exists over here. They upload their counts, they start with whatever, they go count whatever, they have a variance of whatever, right? For every item. Now, when they're done and they've gone through step 1, 2, and 3, and they're ready to update, one of two things can happen. They can actually update it, which would result in adjustment memos being created, right? So there could be the 900 items per adjustment memo. There could be many adjustment memos. If we're updating 3,000 items, we're going to need 4 memos, right? It's going to go 900, 900, 900, and then it's going to take the last 300 and put it on the last item, the last sheet, right? That's what will happen there. So in that scenario, if we allow them to update, these then pull back to the main, and we see them in our history, right? Just like we would if we made them. The other option is when they click update, it does not create these. It compresses this and takes the count and basically sends the count, which then gets sent over to here. We then go to physical inventory and we open that, import it in, and we click update. And when we click update, it creates memos, right? Just like it would have at the remote, right? And these memos in turn pull back to them, right? So it seems kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, doesn't it? So what's the pros and cons of allowing the remote store to update? That's really what we're talking about here, right? One pro of not allowing them to update is that we get to see the count, right? So the count will only exist here at the remote. It'll only be here. So if I said ever, oh, what did we count at our last physical? We're -5 now, but what was it last physical? Then I'd have to go to the remote to see that, wouldn't I? Not a big deal. Everybody out there should have remote access to everything, right? So I would recommend, if you don't have remote access to every computer in your shop, you should. So if we go the other way, what's the pro of having them update it? Well, they get to update it. They get to see the results real time, and I don't have to have anybody at the main. So if they're at 2 o'clock in the morning and they click update and it's going to send the count back, they're not going to see the results till tomorrow, because I'm not sitting around at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting for them to pull in the results. I'm going to get in the next morning, 8 or 9, look it over, send back the results later that day, right? So it just depends on how you want to handle that. I guess I kind of lean towards letting them just update it. If they know what they're doing and you've got a good team in the field, then you just let them go, right? Let them update the thing and be done with it and get the results tomorrow. You can run all the reports you want. You just can't see that original count file, right? Without dialing into the remote to do that, which is not that big a deal. So could go either way on that, right? And again, the preference that controls that and is worded extremely poorly, I'm just going to have to say. Um, with our culture in Retail Pro for so many years being main and remote, main and remote, main and remote, right? The wording on this is just atrocious. So when you go into physical inventory, again, we're not in global, right? We're in local. So we're in local merchandise, PI tool options, right? And it says update inventory count on remote station. That, the way it's worded, seems like if you check it off that you give them the right to update their count. That is exactly opposite. When you check that off, you're basically saying that you cannot do it, that you cannot update it here. You have to send it to a remote location. That remote location is the main, right? So it should be phrased better. It should say, update at the main is what they should have said, or pull back to main office, pull count back to main office, or whatever, right? But if you say that you're going to update at a remote station, you're basically saying I am giving up the right to update the physical myself. That's what that says. So at the remote, we would check that off, and if we check that off, let's leave it checked off. Let's go back to inventory, physical inventory, and stores. Now we have that temporary inventory. I was just playing with that whole zone thing, right? Now over here where it used to say update, it now says prepare PI. Instead of saying update PI, it says prepare PI, right? And I don't think that we've actually, right, so this is unmerged. You can't even update one with an unmerged zone. You have to have everything merged, ready to go, right? So if we circle back around now and take a look at this, and we click prepare PI, it looks like you're doing it. I mean, here it is, right? All items, PI, check my store off. It looks like I'm updating. Totally looks like I'm updating. You're not updating. You are sending that to the main. That's what you're doing. All right, so anyway, and of course people are going nuts texting me while I'm on a webinar. I don't get it. It's in the schedule. So that's pretty much it on the whole physical inventory process, right? Trying to think of anything I might have skipped over or left out. Does everybody understand anything? Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody want to be unmuted? Does anybody want to contribute to this whole webinar thing? Is everything clear? Like, I really honestly haven't seen anybody in the chat room at all here, the chat on this thing. And I get it. You guys are probably reading email and listening to me, and it's like lunch and a show sort of thing. Fair enough. Does anybody out there do cycle counts? Is that something that we have ever needed to do? So it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a quick peek at that. So if we just pick something like a size medium here, all right, there's a few of those right in here. Yeah, I see 3. So let's go to physical inventory. Now, normally this would be by department, right? Come on. So if we go to stores and we go ahead and get rid of this here. So inactivate this one and start a new one. So give it a name of your choosing, get a store, click create. In here, filter it how you need to filter it, typically by department code, by the way. I'm just going to add the size here because I don't have enough data to really do it. But typically it would be a department, or actually probably a couple of departments, right? So if I wanted to now, I could say only those departments, right? Just this small piece of the store. So now, if you're going to do a cycle inventory, brilliant, by the way, great process. It requires fair amounts of organization. Like you got to run a report for what you're going to do like a week ahead of time. You got to go look at where that stuff is, get it all organized, get it planned out, what your zones are going to be, right? How it's going to work, right? So if we filter this though, and we click OK, and we start it, and we go to look at PI inventory, there are 3 items in this count sheet, right? So if I upload one of those count sheets that we were doing a minute ago, right? If I go get one of those, do we still even have any of those? I don't think we do. Wow. Looks like they're all gone. That's not good. All right, well, fair enough. Let's just go make one real quick. 2 seconds, right? And that's enough. We don't need a ton of stuff here, right? Export to Notepad. There they are. And let's just give it some counts here real quick. Now, what's going to happen, guys? Does anybody know? I know, but then again, I'm certified in the software, right? Supposed to know. Well, what happened when we pretended we uploaded a manufacturer barcode into the zones earlier? Well, it's got a scanning error, right? Same thing's going to happen, right? In our count sheet, some of those items don't exist, right? So if I go now and make a zone, so let's go to physical inventory, zones, make a new zone, test, create, scanned, add counts, import, and I think we just called it test. All right, and import, boom, 8 items didn't make it, right? Because they're not in the count sheet, right? So only the mediums made it in because they're in the count sheet. They were accepted because they're there. The other items were all chucked because they're not there. They're not in the count sheet. We got the import ID, but they're not there. They're not, so then we would just resolve these. And that's kind of nice because you could actually go in and count a whole fixture that had what you're looking for on it, right? Except you could just chuck the stuff that's in the wrong department, right? Okay, so I do see some questions now. That's exciting. All right, so okay, on the cycle counts, is there a way to view the raw data for the Retail Pro 9 database in a read-only file? Looking for a way to inform prices in stock. Customers calling on the phone number while the stations are occupied, kicking people off their assigned tasks. Thanks. Not sure I'm following that. So yes, for the cycle counts. Yeah, all right. So is there a way to view the raw data for our Retail Pro database in read-only files. I mean, ultimately, yes. There is a way to do that. The question is it logical and useful? Let's take a look at something. Let's see here. We had more than one question too. Right. So on the cycle count topic, I'm going to say that I think we got that. I mean, unless I'm wrong here, when you start with a narrow count sheet, when your count sheet only has a very select number of items in it, right? Then that's all you can upload. And that's the trick to a count sheet. The trick to a count sheet, to a cycle count, excuse me, is to have a good plan, to take that pie and slice it into the right slices. Like, I can get these 3 departments this morning, I could get that department another morning, I could get this 7 departments this morning, right? It's to have a good plan. That's the key to a cycle count. Because you can break it into as many little pieces as you want, but you got to break it in a smart way that makes sense. So now on the other question here, view the database without interfacing with the program. Okay, so yes. So what you've kind of bumped into is a topic that I probably should cover, but we don't normally cover. But if you have a inventory company come and do it for you, right? Do the count for you, like RGIS, for instance. Okay. And I'm just going to edit this real quick so I can see what this is doing. All right, so this is pulling the ALU, the description 1, and the UPC, and that's pretty normal. So let's start with that. Okay, so I'm going to take this rgis.csv here and delete it. I'm going to do the same with this one here, this tab file, and I'm going to double click this batch file, and I'm going to right click this and refresh, and you see that this RGIS, that this the CSV file was recreated, right? If I edit that, you see what it did. It pulled the ALU, the description 1, and the UPC out of the database. This would normally be sent to RGIS inventory systems as what's called a control file. So we would send that out to them so that they could load their scanners and be able to scan things smartly, right? Now, let's see if I can find the other one. Let's see, tab, CSV, SQL. All right, so let's see what happens if I try and run. Edit. Yeah, all right, so what if we try and run that right there? Okay. Refresh. Okay, right click this, edit. All right, yeah. So this thing here is pulling a whole lot more data, like a ton more data. And let's pop over here and take a look at what it's doing. All right, so it's pulling right, so here it's pulling the quantity. It's one of the last values before it goes to the user-defined fields. So in here, in the data, we see the ALU. So ALU is right here, right? So that's ALU, right? After ALU, you see right here, ALU, right? The old item number from version 8, which we could chuck. The price, right? So The old item number, there is no old item number. That's why there's a space there. The price, the store is store 1. The on hand is -1 right there, right? So, like, I don't know how viable this is, but you could run this little script. We could edit it to have just the quantities and the item numbers, and you could then just do a find here in a notepad and find it pretty fast, I guess, if you wanted to. Well, this is my whole database. Yeah, there's no limit here. There could be a limit on it, but this is an SQL statement, right? So for there to be, and there see this where clause right here? That's a where clause for the UDF section. But you'd have to have a where clause down here that would limit in some way where department code equals or something. So it would actually drop the whole database in seconds to a notepad, right? And it might be better actually to view it like the CSV is kind of hard to read. So you see here the tab delimited one would be, that's not tab delimited. It says all .tab, but that is not tab delimited. But we could drop one tab delimited. Let's pop back to the other folder for a second. Is this one tab delimited? Let me see here. Reach.bat CSV tab. Okay, edit. Yeah, that's tab delimited. See, that's a whole lot easier to read. I mean, and if you're looking for just the quantity and the SKU and maybe the price, we would leave this in here, leave the description in here, and then have the quantity next and the unit price next, and you could just run that script. It would drop it to the file, open the file, and then go edit find, right? It's kind of a weird workaround. Not really what it was intended for, but certainly could be done. And or you could, once you had a CSV or you had a tab delimited file, you could import that into Excel if you prefer to search in Excel, right? That's another option. So, I mean, the only other thing I can think of is, and now this requires a computer, so I'm going to have to point out that the report function, reporting, is not licensed. So if I have 10 computers and 5 licenses, and all 5 licenses are tied up, I could still go into reports and I could run a report for anything I want. I could run a report for on hand. So if you have a computer that's got access to Retail Pro, but I don't have a license currently available, yeah, with no fee, there's no license. Reporting is not licensed. So for instance, there's actually many different parts of Retail Pro. The only thing in Retail Pro that is licensed is Retail Pro 9.exe. So if I go in here and look at this, Retail Pro 9 folder. Okay, so to get into rpro 9.exe, that one, I got to have a license. If I don't have a license, I'm not getting in. But if I wanted to go into the Technician's Toolkit, not a licensed application. If I want to go into reports, not a licensed application. Well, but you could certainly put a so reports can be installed on any workstation. It's a choice whether you install them or not, sure. And you could certainly put them on a workstation on the floor. Now, in reports, I'm going to point out that in security and in reports, you have levels. All the reports start at sysadmin. However, reports can be changed to a lower level, right? Yeah, I ran it. Now I'm trying to edit it. It's going to be pissed off at me. So cancel my edit. Let's just pick a different one. Click on edit, change the security level, right? Boom, done. Not freaked out. Yes, save the change, right? So what you'd want to do is have reports on a machine someplace. Then you'd want to pick the report that you want to give them access to level 4 reports only, and then put that report on level 4, right? So they can only run the report that you want them to run. Okay, so you mean getting an email with the instructions on the text tab delimited data. There's no fee to that. It's just the tech time to set it up. So, Right, fair enough. So the hard part with the Regis file export is really what we're talking about. The only issue we have there is that somebody's going to have to edit the SQL. So you're probably going to need an appointment. It's probably going to be with me or one of the techs, and it's going to take, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe to edit the SQL and drop the files in, and that'd be the only fee that there would be. It would be the tech time that it would take to edit the SQL. I've tried to edit the SQL quickly before, and it never works out well for me. I'm going to say that it's worth the couple of minutes of taking the right amount of time to make it be correct, right? So we would start with one of these, and then we would just edit down the SQL to take out what we don't want, right? If we want the description 1, we leave it. And we decide what characters. That's character 44. An ASCII character 44 is a comma, right? And I believe this one's set up wrong. Yeah, this says it's tab limited, but it's not. We'd have to change it to the right. If we want to go tab, we'd have to go make sure it's a character 9, I think, is the tab delimited one. Right, character 9. If you're pushing a character 9 between each one, then you're putting a tab in there between each one. But it'd just be a matter of editing the SQL down to have exactly what you want in there, and then testing it, and then boom. Yeah, that's not a big deal, really. It's more of an appointment. I mean, I could send you this file, or the couple of files probably. And if you're up to the editing the SQL, you could probably do it. I mean, I don't know. See, these are, yeah, I don't think that I can't take an SQL type file and upload it as a handout. But let's see here. If I take this and this, and I don't know if this trick's even gonna work, right? So if I take these, copy them, and put them, let's put them someplace where I can get to them quickly. Let's just go new folder. All right, and if we change these paste to be that, I don't know, DOC. I'm lying to the webinar software, right? And telling them their docs, right? So let's see if it'll let me put these in as a handout, right? That's what we would like to see. If I put them in the meeting, you can have them. Anybody can have them that's in the meeting, right? Not a big deal. Okay. Get to that drive. And okay, so the question is, can I, in the handout section here, drop these in? Supposedly doc files or Word files are acceptable, but so far not really liking it a lot. Let's see here. Let's try it the other way. Okay, so let's try this one at a time. So that's a batch file I'm trying to upload, and it says 0% uploaded. So no, it's erroring out. It's not going to let me upload these. All right, so then all right, so why don't you drop your email in there, and I'll just try and send you those. I can't send you a batch file. I'll rename the batch file. Instead of being .bat here, I could rename the batch file to be like TAB. If it sees a batch file in an email, it's not getting through. That's like a program file. You don't email executables, right? That's just a bad plan. So I could probably just send you that thing in an email from my office. That's about the best we're probably going to get. I don't know why I can't seem to upload any handouts today. Doesn't make any sense really, but yes, this will be part of the posted webinar. Yeah, everything is being recorded. So until I click stop and stop recording, everything's going to be recorded, and it's not a bad thing for everybody to be able to see that kind of stuff. It's a good thing, I think, to know that we can do this and we have these little batch files and we can pull the data out, and you know, and the CSV file is pretty nice. You know, what blows up in a CSV is leading zeros, right? So if your ALUs have leading zeros, they're going to drop the leading zeros. You just have to know that it's a 6-digit field, or you have to format it as such, custom formatting, which is, there's no way around that, right? So if you make it a tab delimited file, then you could import it in, and you got to say that, hey, treat this as a text portion, right? And that's the only thing you can really do. Okay, gotcha. Wild things, perfect. Hoping for a location of file text tab delimited. Don't need the edits to be data now. Yeah, I can see what I can do. I can see if we can't just put the make a tab delimited version here before I email it out. That'd be the best thing I could probably do. You know, not a big deal. I will try and set that up and email it out in a few minutes, if that's all right. Any other questions in the in this physical inventory foray? And on that tab delimited thing, we're going to want you're going to just want like ALU description 1, 2, attribute size, and quantity, or price. I'm guessing that's probably not a bad place to start, right? And on that point, I will say that yeah, we don't want that to be a doc anymore, do we? Close. It's a little weird seeing it in Word. Can we just make it be an SQL again? And an SQL file in this case is just a query. It can be opened in Notepad. That's not the right one. What I wanted to mention real quick, just while you're watching, is that in this bigger script, in the bottom of it, I believe that, see here, you have a statement where the store number equals whatever store you want it to be. So if you're going to have a different one for each store, right, then you're going to want it to be, you're going to have to go in and create a different script for each store, which is not a big deal. Just put them in different folders so that they don't overwrite each other, because you're not going to want to change the name. If you change the name of the script, then you got to change it in the batch file, right? So the batch file here, all the batch file does is it opens SQL plus, and then it loads that file. That's all it does. So if you change the name of the SQL file, you got to change the name that's being loaded here, right? That's really all that's happening. This is just a tool to load the statement to the SQL query, shall we say, and this is the actual query. So all right, so anything else here? I think we're good then. I want to say thank you very much for attending today, and thank you for pushing me. Thank you for asking questions. It's always good to go a little deeper. And you guys will get an email. Mariel will get this webinar out. Probably it'll be a day or two. And everybody stay safe out there. All right, thank you very much. I'm gonna run and I'll send that email out in a minute here. All right, bye bye.